It's October 1st, 2013. This is Nova Scotia Tattoo Forum's Tattoo TV. We are about to interview someone regarding tattoos. How are you doing today?
Okay.
Do you consent to be interviewed by Nova Scotia Tattoo Forum's Tattoo TV?
Sure.
What is your name and why are you here today?
My name is Stephen Augustine. I'm a hereditary chief on the kmaq Grand Council. I'm what they would call a captain on the Grand Council, and it was the Grand Council chiefs that signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship here in Halifax in 1760. And one was also signed in 1752, and they indicated in that treaty that the Indians would come to Halifax to come and get their presents and gifts that were promised during the treaty signing period. So when the court case was won in 1985, it was called the Simon case. The Grand Council and the elected chiefs decided to designate October 1st as a treaty day, and they invited the government of Nova Scotia as well as the mayor of Halifax to join in the festivities. So that's been happening since 1989.
Wonderful. And do you have any tattoos yourself?
No, I don't have any tattoos.
And as part of your heritage, is there tattooing in the history of your specific tribe?
Well, there are lots of indications where Indians were tattooing themselves. Some of the tattooing is blamed on the sailors that arrived here, that they had tattoos on their bodies, and that they influenced the Mi'kmaq people in early 1500s. It was the Basques, the Britons, and the French that arrived. It is said that they were the ones that influenced the Indians to put tattoos on themselves. But there was an Indian that was brought to France in the mid-1600s, and he was full of tattoos, and he died while he was there in France, and the medical doctors took his body and they skinned him to see if the tattoos marks would stay on his skin. And I don't know what happened, but there was a French author by the name of Montague that wrote about this incident. And there are images and drawings of Indians with tattoos on their bodies. But most of the tattoos are signifying like crosses on their skins, and which would kind of represent the influence of the church among our people. But they say that the Indians tattooed themselves using ash, like fire ash.
Yes.
And carbon mixed in with bear grease, and they would embed that underneath the skin, and that would stay colored under the skin. They didn't have colors like red or green or others, but it was mostly black color or kind of faded black, and might have looked like blue or greenish blue.
Okay, and do you know how they actually put it into the skin? Was it sharpened bone, or was it any particular?
Yes, it was a sharp object. I mean, like sometimes they said they used porcupine quills, and because there's a barb end on the bottom, on the end of the porcupine quill. So
yes.
They would embed the whatever paint that they would have on they would dip it on there, and it would stick onto the end of the quill, and they would stick that inside the skin, and that would cause the skin to color.
Okay, and in modern day times, do you find there's a lot of tattoos amongst the people in your tribe specifically?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen women as old as 60-something having tattoos put on their body, and a lot of young people. It seems to be, it's not a sort of like a tradition that would be remembered, I guess, by our own people.
Yes.
Because it happened a long time ago in the 1600s. So the tradition I would say today is more from the current tattoo tradition, I guess. Tattoo studios, I guess, opening up in cities and towns. It's mostly the native people that live in the cities and towns that would end up tattooing themselves, going home, and then other people see this, and then they go and look for a tattoo salon and have their tattoos. But symbolically, they would try to put more Aboriginal or Mi'kmaq symbolism on the tattoos.
Yes. And do you see it as a rite of passage or just an identification purpose, as in people are proud of their heritage and they want to have that visibly on their body?
Partly it's a statement. I mean, traditionally, today, Aboriginal people would say, no, tattooing's not our thing, but you'll see lots of native people with tattoos. It's not so much a rite of passage, but it's more a statement, I guess, that, they're free. I mean, they want to exercise their sovereignty. My body's my body. Nobody's going to tell me not to put a mark on it or whatever. And I think it's more a statement of an expression of saying, we are Indians, we're free, we're tired of being in residential schools and under the influence of the Indian Act and all this stuff. So I think it's a statement.
I think it also, maybe you would agree with this, that this is a cultural kind of resurgence of something that has been culturally a part of your heritage, but because you have an oral tradition of passing down history, it was easy for that tradition to break.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of our oral tradition and oral knowledge that's been lost. I mean, within the last 150 years, I think we've lost a lot. We've lost the elders that used to live on the land, and their language was about the land and living on the land, describing the weather, describing the plants, animals, and fish. And it's a very, a language, Mi'kmaq language, it's full of verbs. It's verb-based. Everything we say is more action, and so a lot of the early philosophy of Mi'kmaq people would have been more the idea of doing things rather than talking about them.
Yes, action rather than just theoretical, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful. And any thoughts on the culture of tattoo in Nova Scotia today generally? Any general observations that you'd like to comment on?
Well, the culture of tattoos have been known and it's been relevant mostly along the port towns, port cities, where sailors land and they come ashore, and usually they pick up tattoos while they were in some other foreign lands, like India, let's say, different countries in Italy and Spain. There's a very strong idea of tattooing in port cities and towns. But I also used to work in jails, and they used to tattoo themselves in the jails. And people that had no time, I mean, lots of time on their hands, ended up tattooing themselves. I mean, copying tattoos that somebody had in jail, and I want one like that.
Yes.
I've seen a whole big tattoo of Virgin Mary on the back of one of my nephews.
Yes.
They were doing time, and apparently they decided to put this image of the Virgin Mary on their back, and they came home and told their grandmother, look, Grandma, look what I did. And they quit drinking and go on the Red Road and all this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, the tradition of tattoos, I think it comes from the military, from the sailors, and it's been transferred among the ordinary people, I guess, of today, that they'd like to have a tattoo, so they go to a tattoo parlor and have one put on.
So do you think the future of tattooing is positive, as in there's greater artists that are actually applying tattoos, and an opportunity now for a cultural kind of reclamation or reclaiming the past and producing new imagery that is actually reflective of the past? Talking about the future of tattooing amongst First Peoples, and there's the opportunity now to do positive affirmations of one's identity, as well as a resurgence of past traditions. Any closing thoughts on that?
Well, I think the history of tattooing is I think it's on the rise. I mean, the incidence of tattooing, because it's not seen so much in the public as a negative symbol or character. I mean, everybody put tattoos on themselves, where before it was like the drunken old sailor or somebody that's been in jail or comes out full of tattoos in it. So there was sort of like a negative attitude by the public towards the tattoo.
Yes.
But today you see young people, you see old people wearing tattoos, and it's not a bad thing. You even see in the workplace women that are secretaries or even executive directors, they would have a tattoo on their shoulder or on their calf or leg, and it's not seen as a negative thing today. And I think it's in the future. I think there's lots of room for tattoos, and I think it's here to stay, and I think it's going to live a comfortable future, and all the negative aspects about it. We've outlived all those kind of things, and I think it sees a better future than what we've seen in the past.
Wonderful. So tattooing now has a positive connotation, which is getting more so all the time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. This is Nova Scotia's Tattoo Forum Tattoo TV signing off for now. This is